Welcome back to our Quality Management System ISO 9001-2015 series, Lesson 5. In this lesson, I will discuss some of the most known terms that are used frequently across all the clauses of ISO 9001-2015. Plus, I will explain the first three clauses of the standard one by one. By the end of this lesson, you will have a clear understanding of the following four areas in ISO 9001-2015. First, we will discuss about the very important terms that you have to know in the standard. These are just the building blocks of the standard, and once you understand them, everything else will be much more easy. Next, we will look at the clause 1, which is a scope. This part defines what the ISO 9001-2015 actually covers and what it does not cover. It sets the boundaries for the standard's application. Then we will cover clause 2, normative reference. These are the official documents that the ISO 9001-2015 relies on or depends on. Think of them as supporting references that help us to shape the entire standard. Finally, we will discuss about clause 3, terms and definitions. This section ensures that everyone in ISO 9001-2015 speaks the same language. Understanding these definitions will help you communicate clearly and implement the standard more effectively. If you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you never miss any updates. And stay till the end of this discussion because understanding these basics is crucial before you move to the rest of the standard. Thank you. Let's get started. The Quality Management System ISO 9001-2015 has two types of clauses, that is mandatory clauses and non-mandatory clauses. Clause 1, 2, and 3 are not mandatory for implementation of ISO 9001-2015. They are not auditable clauses. They are not a requirement for implementation of the standard. Even though they are not mandatory to implement the standard, they are still very essential clauses because these clauses provide as important information about the standard, so it is typically referred to as informative clauses. They provide us the scope of the standard, which is the boundary, what's included and what's not included, key terms and their definitions also provided here, and the reference information about the standard is also provided by these three clauses. In general, to ensure proper understanding and implementation of ISO 9001-2015 requirements, it is a must to know these three clauses to ensure the proper understanding and implementation of the standard. Before moving to each of the three clauses, it's better to know the meanings of some of the important terms that are used most frequently in the standard. These terms are shall, should, may, can, not, maintain, and retain. So understanding such terms is crucial for interpreting the requirements of ISO 9001-2015 correctly. They are used to convey different levels of obligation, recommendation, and permission. In general, to ensure clarity, we have to know the precise meanings of each of these 7 terms. Let's start from the first term, that is shall. In ISO 9001-2015, shall indicates a requirement. It's mandatory and must be followed or complied with. For example, the organization shall determine the external and internal issues, meaning the organization must determine the external and the internal issue. Determining external and internal issues are just a requirement for the organization, and it is auditable or it is mandatory. Unlike that of shall, it should indicate a recommendation. It's not a mandatory but strongly advised for best practice because it is a best practice, so it is strongly advised or it is strongly suggested. For example, the organization should consider the context of its operation when planning. This means when the organization is preparing a planning, it's best practice to consider the context of its operation. So it shows a recommendation or it shows a suggestion or it shows an advice. Third is can, and can indicates a possibility or can indicates an option. It is used when there is a possibility to perform an action. For example, an organization can outsource a process. Here, there is a possibility of outsourcing the process, or there is an alternative or there is an option to outsource the process. And the fourth term is may, which indicates permission or allowance. It is used when the standard gives allowance or permission, but not an obligation unlike that of shall. Example, the organization may decide to maintain documented information in electronic format, meaning it's permitted to maintain the documented information in electronic format, or it's allowed to maintain documented information in electronic format. Not in the standard, meaning it provides additional clarification and guidance. It's not a requirement or recommendation. By additional clarification and guidance, it helps to understand the concept better. For example, note a process can include resources such as personnel, material, and equipment. Here it's additional clarification about the process. The sixth is maintain. Documents are current and controlled. Maintain is applied to the documents. For example, the organization shall maintain documented information to support the operations of its process. This means the documented information must be regularly reviewed, kept current or up to date, and available for use when in need. When we say maintain, there is ongoing action required. Maintain is majorly used for the documents, and the last term is retain, and retain is used for records or for evidence. Records are stored securely for a defined retention period. For an evidence, record is just a proof that something was done, like reports, retaining records, and so on. For example, the organization shall retain records of internal audits, meaning records of internal audits must be stored or preserved to prove that the audit was done. Moving to clause 1, scope. The scope of the standard defines the boundaries and the applicability of the quality management system. It just tells what's included and what's not included from the standard. Besides, the scope outlines what the standard aims to achieve or the purpose of the standard. In general, ISO specifies requirements for a quality management system when an organization needs to demonstrate its ability to consistently provide products and services that meet customer and applicability requirements. And the second is the main purpose of the standard is to enhance customer satisfaction through the application of the standard. And not only satisfying the customer, we have to have an improvement of the system, or we have to comply with the customer and the applicable statutory and regulatory requirements. In general, the standard is universal or generic, regardless of the size of the organization or the industry type, or whether it provides products or service can be implemented. Note, both statutory and regulatory requirements can be expressed as legal requirements in the standard. Moving to clause 2, normative reference. In the context of ISO 9001-2015, normative references are established references that the standard builds up on. It provides a solid base for understanding and implementing the standard. The references are just the documents that are essential for the applications of the standard. In ISO 9001-2015, the primary normative reference is ISO 9000, which provides the fundamental concepts, principles, and vocabulary related to the quality management system. Normative references are important because normative references promotes clarity and ensures consistent understanding across all the users of the standard. Without normative reference, interpreting and applying ISO 9001-2015 could become inconsistent and confusing. The last is clause 3, terms and definitions. The terms and definition in ISO 9001 standard come from the ISO 9000-2015 standard, which covers terminology and fundamentals. The benefits of knowing these terms and definitions is to avoid confusion. Clear definition ensures that the standard requirements are interpreted correctly, and it promotes consistency. The standardized definition helps ensure that the standard is applied consistently across different organizations and industries, and it also improves communication. Standardized terminology helps ensure that all parties involved in implementing and maintaining the QMS have a common understanding of the key terms, which supports the implementation or which facilitates the implementation of the standard in our organization. This is the end of our today's discussion, and once again, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe and hit the notification buttons to get updates. And if you like this particular video, please hit the like button and share to your friends. Thank you, and see you with next lesson.